Hello and welcome to our reviews. Today we'll be reviewing Marvel Legends Galactus series Professor Xavier. So yeah, unfortunately, this is my last Marvel Legend that I have to review. I guess that means I'll just have to buy more of them. It might be a good incentive for me to buy more of them. Anyway, so after this I'll be doing some more re-reviews and reviews of other things and things like that. But anyway, here we have Professor Xavier. For being Professor Xavier, in other words, not the most action-y of characters, this is a really good figure. Of course, he comes with a wheelchair, and he comes with this little superhero hat, and he comes with Galactus' head. So, a very important figure to get if you want to have Galactus. Anyway, he is pretty cool, so let's go ahead and zoom in for the articulation, sculpt, paint details, all those sorts of things. Alright, starting off with a quick size comparison. Of course, Professor Xavier is standardly 6-inch figure, but he is almost always going to be sitting down, I would imagine, unless you're having him posed in some sort of situation where his legs actually work, but for the most part, he's going to be sitting in this wheelchair. So this is about how tall he normally is. Hellboy is a standard 6-inch figure, and is almost the exact same height as Professor Xavier if he's standing up. And then Wolverine over there is a Marvel Universe figure. So that's what he'll look like sort of in scale with other things in his normal sitting position. Let's get these other two out of here and just look at Professor Xavier. Alright, here we have Professor Xavier without his wheelchair. I'll count that as an accessory and look at it later. He's got his head up here, which we'll zoom in on in a minute. He's got this suit body down here. I think that it might be the same suit body that they use for Tomb of Dracula. I could be wrong, but it feels and has some of the same points, and I think it might be the same suit body. Anyway, the over jacket part here is rubber, and then everything else is just standard plastic. He's got a tie in there. It's a pretty standard looking, no paint variation, dark bluish suit. It's got the, just kind of creases and things that you would expect from a suit, and then he's got shiny black shoes down there at the bottom. Flip him over on the back, and he does have 2 holes in his back. Those plug into his wheelchair, which seems a bit unnecessary to me, because I don't really see why he would need to be that securely snapped into the wheelchair. But it functions, so that's why those are there. That's pretty much all the detail, really, on Professor Xavier. He doesn't have a lot to look at. It's just a bald guy in a suit, but he looks exactly like what I would want Professor Xavier to look like, so it's fine with me. Now let's zoom in on the head sculpt really quick. Alright, zooming in on the head sculpt, as you can see, he has no hair. He does have those very distinctive eyebrows like Professor Xavier usually has in the comic books and things like that. And just a pretty standard expression. I like the head sculpt. It's pretty much exactly what I would want from it. There's no real faults that I can think of with it. Now let's zoom out and look at some articulation. Alright, articulation-wise, Professor Xavier is pretty standard for Marvel Legend. Head is on a nice disc, goes up and down, rotates. Ball joint shoulders, they're a bit different because of the weird suit jacket thing, but they still have pretty much the same amount of mobility. Bicep cut, double joint elbows, wrist hinge, and rotation. Finger joint, he does miss the abdominal joint, but he has a waist cut, ball joint hips, in and out, forward and back. Upper thigh cut, and then a cut underneath that. Double jointed knees. He has a cut down there at the calf. Ankles hinge forward and back. And he has a toe joint and a very slight ankle pivot. So he has practically every point of articulation you would expect minus the abdominal joint. So he is pretty good, and he's about as good as you're going to need because he shouldn't be posing too much below the waist at all, so he should be fine. Now let's move on and look at his accessories. Firstly, he comes with his Cerebro helmet, which fits onto his head very well. You can see it's pretty much solid silver, and it's got little tubes and a little bit of design to it. It's a pretty simple little accessory, and it does fit on the head very well. Now let's move on to his wheelchair. Alright, here's Professor Xavier's wheelchair. It is a standard style wheelchair. Well, not standard, it's still pretty techy looking, but it's not like the hover chair thing that you see in the cartoon and stuff. It's silver and black. You can see the 2 pegs coming out here that shove into his back, and he also has 2 pegs down there on the footrests for his feet. They do have little, not really well-painted control panels there on both sides, and then it has the big X wheels. These are actual wheels. They are a bit loose for some reason. And then on the back, it's pretty much just silver and has some design to it. And that's pretty much the extent of it. It looks nice for a wheelchair. I can't really complain about it too much. He sits in it fine, and he's not going to fall out of it because he's pegged in 4 different places. So should be all good for having him in that wheelchair. Now let's take a look at his Build-A-Figure piece of Galactus. Professor Xavier comes with possibly the most important piece of Galactus, which is the head. You can see the face sculpt there, which is pretty good, and all the little details on the crown and stuff. It's got the big horns. Flip it over on the back, it's pretty plain. Then on top, it's got the little line designs. The head itself doesn't have any articulation to look at. Of course, once you plugged it on, it would be on a neck ball joint kind of thing. But that's pretty much the extent of it. It's a very nice head sculpt, and is certainly necessary if you want to build Galactus. Now let's take a look at Professor Xavier's packaging. Packaging-wise, this is your standard Marvel Legends packaging, Galactus series. Got your big window there, issue of Uncanny X-Men in the background, Marvel Legends Professor Xavier, and a picture of Professor Xavier and Galactus. Flipping it over on the back, you got your stat page, your description, and the other figures in this wave, which are Grey Hulk, Nightcrawler, Bullseye, War Machine, Deathlock, Professor Xavier, and Doctor Strange. I reviewed everything in this wave, including the Build-A-Figure, except for Deathlock, because I do not have him. So, yeah, you can find any of those reviews if you just browse around on my channel somewhere. As always, these are good for in or out of package displays, so yeah, Professor X. Alright, that wraps it up for Professor X, so until next time, goodbye! Hello, you've just watched one of my videos. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed my videos. If you didn't, run away and never return. Also, feel free to check out my other channels, Venom Raptor for all my variety gaming content, and VR Reviews for reviews of various action figures and collectibles. Thank you, and goodbye.